chance to hear it, so let her tell it. People on the streets say Sabrina Speaks. Tune into the show, she will let you know. Tell all your friends and family. Real talk is no joke. You get the news straight up from grassroots and concerns. You hear with some people gone. So tell all your friends to tune in to
Good evening, Cayman. I'm Sabrina Turner, and welcome to Sabrina Speaks, your daily dose of clarity, truth, and community insights. Every weekday from 5 to 6:30 p.m., we're tackling the issues that affect you, from national headlines to grassroots concerns. Whether you're in traffic or winding down your day, this is your chance to hear it straight and speak your truth. So buckle up, Cayman. We're not holding back.
This is the show. We gotta let you know. Now we got to go.
And now here's Sabrina.
Well, what do you know? Good afternoon, Cayman Islands. Happy holidays. I'm trying to do the bright stuff. Good morning to our global family, and welcome to another episode of Sabrina Speaks. Yes, Voices of the Islands, conversations for the world, the podcast where voices rise, stories unfold, and inspiration takes center stage. I'm your host, Sabrina. How's your day been going? Good afternoon. Happy Tuesday. And I thought, as I was preparing for today, I found this. I'm always bumping into these things. These algorithms is something else, let me tell you. But it was so fitting. Again, it says, good afternoon. Life can be understood by looking back, but can only be lived by looking forward. Let that sink in for a little bit. I thought that meant so much to me personally, but it's a pleasure to be here with you again on this beautiful Tuesday. Please call and tell your friends. We are on the home stretch for the immigration series of me and the interpretation. And oh boy, we got a section in here today that's going to probably ruffle some feathers. Yeah, because tomorrow, December 10th, yes, the immigration transition amendment and validation bill will be tabled on the floor of Parliament. Yes, that's when they're meeting tomorrow. And this is a big moment because these clauses, we're going to go through starting from clause 25 today, and we're going to hope we can get through 37, bearing in mind that some of these clauses we have already done, like the transitional clause and all of that sort of stuff. A lot of them we have already done, but these were the bunch in the middle that we actually did not get to. But there's one particular thing about 25 that I think will catch your attention. And you know what? Just let me get to the housekeeping. But right now, all of these clauses touch directly on how we manage residency, employment, fairness, and even a little competition. It'll all make sense. So grab a beverage, call your friend, do whatever you got to do, top up on your credit, because we need to hear back from you. We need you to participate in this discussion. Like I said, it's going to be tabled tomorrow. We still, again, I stand to be corrected. I haven't seen or heard anything about the regulations. Have you heard? What about the 15 amendments? Yeah. But also, that's not the only bill that will be tabled tomorrow or in the next sitting. The Submarine Cable Telecommunications Resilience Bill of 2025 will also be tabled. And I'll give you a quick synopsis, an overview of that as well before we get into finalizing what we call now the home stretch of our interpretation of this immigration reform. But the content you're about to hear, including any discussions or opinions from myself, guests, and participants, is intended solely for general informational and entertainment purposes. It is not a substitute for professional legal, medical, or financial advice. I encourage you to consult with a qualified professional for specific concerns. Bridge Media Limited and all its affiliates disclaim all liability for any decisions or actions taken in reliance on the information presented. 345-936-8255 is the number to call and be a part of this discussion. And don't forget to follow, like, share, and subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Every day I'm seeing the new followers. Yes, we appreciate you and thank you so, so much. We love to have you. Well, we're going to get straight to it today because it's a hard stop at 7. Yep. For more on cmrtv.com. But tonight's weather forecast, the synopsis call for light easterly winds and smooth seas, along with a chance of isolated showers, are expected across the Cayman area for the next 24 hours, as a stationary front dominates the weather pattern across the Northwest Caribbean. Satellite image shows a few low-level clouds drifting over the Northwest Caribbean. And tonight's forecast calls for partly cloudy skies with cloudy spells and a 30% chance of showers. Temperatures will fall near to the low mid-70s. Winds will be easterly at 5 to 10 knots. Seas will be smooth with wave heights less than 2 feet. Tomorrow's forecast calls for partly cloudy skies with cloudy spells and a 30% chance of showers. Temperatures will rise to the upper 80s with a heat index of near 96. Winds will be easterly at 5 to 10 knots. Seas will be smooth with wave heights less than 2 feet. There's going to be a low tide at 8:38 tonight. Tomorrow, a high tide is 2:22 in the morning, a.m., and a low tide at 8:18 a.m. There's also going to be another high tide at 2:24 in the afternoon, and the next low thereafter will be at 9:43. The sun will set this evening at 5:47, and sunrise tomorrow morning will be at 6:49. The sunset again for those lovely evenings with Jimbo. Yes, the sunset tomorrow, just in case you have plans, since you didn't call me yesterday, because I was here. But just in case you have plans for tomorrow, the sunset, Jim, is at 5:47 tomorrow. Now, the outlook is for similar weather conditions through Friday morning, with a significant increase in winds and seas as the pressure gradient tightens over our region. So it looks as though we're going to get some of those nice breeze back. Wow. Let's see who's here, because we got a jam-packed show for you this evening for sure. I didn't see anything, thanks to Facebook. I didn't see anything where birthdays are concerned. So I'm sorry if I overlooked anybody, but I'm still going to do the traditional thing. Happy birthday to anyone who's celebrating a birthday today. We appreciate you. I wish you're having a beautiful day. And for those, I know I got one coming up tomorrow. That's a classmate. We'll give him a shout out when that time comes. Hey, Connie, how are you, my love? Hope you're enjoying the festive season and you're not getting in too much trouble. You're out and about. Today was the only day that I stayed in. I did not go anywhere. I kind of postponed my errands and I did something. I'm glad I didn't go, because my dog Chance, they got groomed today, and of course he was matted. He's just a boy. And so I did the thing. I said, well, darling, we're in the tropics, so give him a summer cut in Christmas. Well, oh dear Jesus, I don't know what's going to happen when the family comes over, but it's as though the dog that left is not the dog that came back. And poor Brute, he's like, what the heck did you do, Mom? So yeah, I have to actually look at him totally different. And oh God, he just looks like, oh yeah, it is one of those things. I'll share the picture tomorrow, but yeah, who the family is going to see in a little while is, they're going to be like, what the heck did you do? I did it. Gives me a reason to dress him up in his Christmas outfit. So I didn't go anywhere today. I just finished doing all of my tidying and getting the house how I want it to be. And I'm hoping that you're doing the same, and you're going out buying all of your Christmas gifts or getting ready for your staff party, because I know a lot of that is happening as well. But yeah, Connie, just don't get in too much trouble. Hey, Damien, how you doing? Good evening to you, my love. Marshall, good evening to you as well. 4480. Whatever that is in English, but I gotta big you up. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you. 4816 as well. And 3795. You are going to be treated with lots of love. And you. That's so therapeutic. Hey, Jimbo. Hello to you, Sabrina, Connie, too, and to all your amazing listeners. I may not agree with everyone, but isn't that great that we don't have to? We're individuals for reasons, thankful, grateful, and blessed. That's so profound. Yeah, you're quite right, Jim. You are quite right. Yeah. We got some people that has been commenting some weird stuff since yesterday, and it's so therapeutic to just ban them. I don't even give them warnings. It's just click. I just wish that was life sometimes, but hey, it isn't that easy. But it's what we do here in the this podcast world, and I'm not going to tolerate any foolishness. I just banned you. Boom. So you're going to be creating all sorts of images or profiles if you want to come back under a different thing. We are all about respect here, and I'm not going to entertain any foolishness. We agree to disagree, but not when you're just going to come with BS. I'm not going to do it. I'm not even going to give you a warning. I'm just going to ban you. Good evening, Sonia. How you doing, my love? Yeah, I'm not getting into any. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's what you say now. It's still young. The season is still young. Yeah. But let's get straight into it. It's amazing how time flies when you get into all of this good stuff and you're sharing all of this information. Hey, Shaka, how you doing, my love? Hope you're having a good Tuesday afternoon and looking forward to the holidays. And just for the record, I'm going to declare it today, Friday, December 19th. Let me repeat, Friday, December 19th. That will be the last episode of Sabrina Speaks before I go off on holiday. I don't want to hear it. Yeah. So that will be the Friday, the 19th episode. I'm going to take some days off just to get in some more trouble and to hang with some friends. Not to say that you guys aren't gems, but yeah, I knew it. But great things are in store. And you know what? Guess what? It's only like 2 days before the holidays anyhow, 2 or 3 days, including the weekend. I could get in a lot of trouble between then. Oh yeah. But don't worry, I'll be posting stuff. And yeah, that's the joy of being a podcaster. I'm quite sure we will find some content to definitely be filling the space here so that you're not bored. That's the power of key things. Now, hold on. The flexibility, though, is that if anything major comes about, I have the flexibility of still coming back on, but I'm not going to make any promises. That's good to actually have that amount of flexibility. So, so I'm just going to declare it so I don't get all sorts of messages. Where are you today? Where are you? What's happening? No Sabrina Speaks. I'm telling you from now. So, oh, you will survive, Shaka Zulu. Coming from you, that means the world. You know, I should do the last show reflection or reminiscing of the relationships that we have here and how we've grown on each other. But yeah, it's amazing. Shaka Zulu, you're the one that stands out the most. You and Jimbo and Connie, but you, Shaka Zulu, I never dreamt that we would have such a relationship. Even Cameron, Even Cameron has warmed up to me now. Oh my God. But I actually laugh at it, and it just goes to show you the power of just taking time and getting to know people. And even though I still don't know you guys, because this is virtual, it's amazing the strengths and the relationships that we can build just virtually. And it speaks volumes because no matter what, that's one good thing, AI versus being humans. Based on the feedback and that sort of stuff, you can see where people are like, okay, suck it up. Yeah, we were really hard on you at the beginning. But look, we're getting to know you more and more each episode. And I'm so happy for that. But that'll be interesting, doing a then versus now. But yeah, you know what? It's going to be fun no matter what. We're going to constantly be sharing information with you. And I'll be around. Trust me, I will be around. So, like, people have been seeing me in Kirk's, and even at the plant store. I into plants now. Inside, though, you're not going outside because I'm afraid of frogs. But yeah, even in the plant stores, it's good to be able to go there and you buy your different plants and your herbs and stuff. And I am finding that to be very therapeutic. And I'll tell you how they're going, getting the nice little pots. But the thing is, kudos to the guys down there at Vigoro. Oh my God, they know I'm petrified of frogs. And whenever I go to buy plants, I always or usually stay inside. They kind of picked it up why I don't go outside. I'll just tell them I want a black mint, I want this, I want that, or just look for some impatience, those pretty flowers right now, or look for nice, this fluffy. And then I'll pretend like I'm really, really busy on the inside, but they learned I don't go outside because the last time I went to buy some periwinkles, the little one, the entire bottom of one of those that they were putting in my box so that I could check out was full. The frog was so big, he took up the entire bottom of the thing. And I was like, oh, hell no. So what your girl do know is that I asked them politely, can you find a little pretty pot for me, please? And they actually take the time and they will find a little pot and they will pot these plants for me and put the little gravel in them. But that's another way to make sure ain't nothing coming in my car. The other day, I had about 5 of them check every one of those plants to make sure nothing was in there. They had the biggest laugh. But yeah, they have the patience of Job. I love you guys down there at Vigoro. And they're always so accommodating. But what an experience that is. And I go out there and literally, if you do my blood pressure, it will be elevated and you can actually see my pulse just beating. I am just so petrified of frogs. But then I like to go to choose my own flowers and my herbs and that sort of stuff. But I haven't had a good experience, to be honest. And even on the way home, even though I know they were nicely potted and not all that sort of stuff, the phobia, I literally had on the air condition and no, it was not a hot flash. I was sweating. Just wanted to get those darn things out of my car. But yeah, those are my adventures that I go on, even wreaths, anything. It is just something that I'm hoping that in time I will actually get over this phobia, but it is getting worse. When I tell you it's getting worse. And but yeah, so poor me. You gotta have patience with Job to deal with me, but the gentlemen, the nice young men down there are so accommodating and understanding, that they really do take care of me. Wakon is saying now, it's nice having you here, but media don't, yeah, but we gotta take it here. That's the good thing with podcasting. You see, Sandy is media. I'm a podcaster. The difference. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Hey, Darlene, how you doing? Ribbit. Yeah. Jim, you don't want me and you to be friends. Don't even joke with me when it comes to a frog. So if you want a divorce, just say, darling, it's over. It cannot work. But do not think you're going to be, I wouldn't suggest you do anything with a frog, Jimmy. Okay. Just don't. Just say, Sabrina, I know we tried and it's not working out. We're just on separate paths, but it's not going to work out for 2026. I'll take it just to do anything with a frog. See, I'm telling you the exit. It's good to have good fun, but I'm petrified. Hey, Miss Lucille in the UK, how you doing? It's good to have you with us. Blessings to you always, my love. That's my to-go to. Oh, Connie, they got who it is? Another one I saw on Facebook. They got orchids too. Yes, beautiful ones. Connie, loaded, and succulents. They got the little succulent ones. They look like they just came in trays and trays of succulent plants. And I saw a Christmas cactus. Is it a Christmas cactus? Yeah. My cousin showed me that. Beautiful, beautiful. Yeah, but they got in shipment. So for all of you plant lovers, unsolicited plug for Vigoro, and that's at both locations. But they got some really, really nice plants in, I must say. But the succulents, and I saw orchids too, Connie. Yeah. Plants are my life. Like I'm raking the gravel. Really? Aw, thank you so much. It's therapeutic. Your alimony is expensive. I think you want to be, oh, nice. Okay. Well, I guess this is one of those things, Jimmo, when you say cheaper to keep her. You will need to send them a bill for advertising now. Well, you know what? They says, I believe in just speaking the truth, and they really do take good care of me, I must say, Dodeni. But I think blessings will come in time anyhow, no matter what. But yeah, it is what it is. But they got some really good stuff down there. But the guys really, they have a special place in my heart. Because they really do take care of me. So good to have you all with us. Thank you for tuning in. 9368255 is the number to call. You know that tomorrow Parliament, the next sitting of Parliament begins, and there's two major bills. We have been pretty much dissecting as much as I can the immigration amendment, transition validation bill, and I think there was so much information on that in this space that people didn't realize, or probably not very much. I stand to be corrected. Thank you, Miss Sabrina, for promoting our shop. We always, thank you so much. Sure, all the time. I got you guys covered. It's a pleasure to deal with you guys. But yeah, I think I haven't heard very much about this this other bill that's going to be tabled tomorrow, because they're going to be tabling the ministers. That's Minister J.E. Banks is going to be tabling the submarine cable telecommunications resilience bill of 2025. And in case you missed it, this bill, and I'm just going to do it in synopsis because really our meats and potatoes is just a continuation, which for the record would be like day 6 in total of us covering the immigration amendment bill. But I thought I should just highlight this for a matter of information that this bill will be tabled tomorrow. And it focuses on strengthening and protecting undersea fiber optic cables that connect the Cayman Islands to the global internet. And pretty much it sets standards for resilience and redundancy, bearing in mind that if that fiber that is out there that's been there for a while now actually breaks, which we could have tremors, we could have just wear and tear, we could have earthquakes that could actually damage this cable. It's amazing to know that we're connected and these cables run huge under the sea, connecting us to the US in some cases. But it is sets for standards for resilience and redundancy so that if one of those cables are damaged either by storms or accidents or any other event, that our Cayman Islands remain connected through this backup system. And this piece of legislation, this bill, also recognizes that these cables are critical to our national infrastructure and understands and allows government to plan and regulate them more strategically. So that's going to be one of the things that's going to be tabled tomorrow. And when it comes to the importance, you know how we are totally, everything is digital. We're seeing where we're making and improving our systems for our very own Cayman economy that is so largely dependent on financial services. This is of key importance. It's very important. When you look even at tourism and our growing technology sectors, they all depend on uninterrupted internet access. You see what happens right here if we have a glitch. And reliable connectivity makes us even a more attractive jurisdiction to, let's say, investors, and it helps also local businesses as well compete internationally. So you may say, well, what? I just can't keep the lights on. What about cost of living and all that sort of stuff? It isn't helping us with these heightened fees and all this stuff that government needs to make money, but really, for everyday locals, the benefits are very simple. Make one of those cables drop and you can't get little Wi-Fi or internet connection. Yeah. You will have fewer outages, more stable internet for banking and communication with your loved ones, even studying for education. And remember, our healthcare providers aren't left out of this as well. And it gives you greater peace of mind during especially the hurricane season, where we know communication is vital. So pretty much in a synopsis, in very short format, this bill is really about safeguarding our digital lifeline. It's not even a footprint in this case. It is the Cayman's digital lifeline, and that's what will be presented tomorrow, ensuring that both businesses and individuals and families and can rely on strong, resilient connections in a world where, of course, connectivity is essential. So yeah, there you have it. So looking forward for that tomorrow. I'm quite sure that may be not as heavily debated or contested. There may be a few questions, maybe not. Let's see. So at the end of the day, we glitched. There we go. See, no connectivity there. I don't know what you saw on your end. Somebody's asking, how about Starlink? Maybe they'll address that tomorrow, because we've been hearing a lot about that since Melissa in Jamaica. Yes, that and the rest got declined. So at the end of the day, let's see where that goes. But the big one, I'm quite sure on both sides of the aisle, that has been a national topic that is still really ruffling some feathers, to be honest. And I'm thinking that at the end of the day, more and more conversations that are being had about this Immigration Transition Amendment and Validation Bill of 2025, that is supposed to have been really dealing with sham marriages, protecting our Caymanians, looking at where we stand with competitiveness in the workforce, Caymanians feeling that they're being left out, that they're constantly competing. And what this was supposed to do was introduce several changes intended to exactly modernizing immigration law. And a part of these clauses, because we've gone through some of them already, it dealt with even job hopping amongst expatriate workers. And while there are constructive proposals in the bill, please don't get us wrong, members of the public are still, and they have expressed concern that during the consultation or the town hall meetings, whatever you want to label them as, that they expressed concern that the language in the presentation needed to be more clear and had a bit more context. I think this is becoming to make its head based on how it has been conducted here on this format. And when other persons actually engage on other, let's say, shows, I can only speak for here, But it is more that the clauses should have been explained a little bit more. And that, when you look at even one of the clauses that I'm about to get into, it makes it explicit, makes it clear, embeds it into the law right now that non-Caymanian civil servants, listen to what I'm about to say, non-Caymanian civil servants may now take on part-time work in the private sector while on a contract for government. You heard what I said? You did not. I did not misspeak. That's one of the changes now that will be embedded in this principal law. And I'm getting from some Caymanians that this view is weakening protections and not strengthening it for locals, understanding that we're still low in numbers. But some have gone as far as saying that particular amendment is a slap in the face. But hello? Let's get into it, because this is not me. This is what the clause is saying, is amending, and I will break it down and I will put the image on the screen so that you will see what the clause is saying. And I will break it down and compare what the clause is saying, what the current law is saying, and we can all dissect it, because there are also realities into this. But some of you may feel like, oh my God, well, they working for government. Now you mean to tell me that even when they're on a government contract, they can now come out and work private sector and still compete in jobs that we are already out here struggling? They can now double dip. Hold on, let's go through it. Hold your thoughts, but you are invited to weigh in on this. You are invited to weigh in on this clause, because this is going to be tabled tomorrow. What I'm about to put on the screen now would be the clauses of the amendment that is being proposed, the recommendation that the government is now recommending, okay? This is clause 25, and you can see it in the middle of the screen. And it's amending, and I will show you clause 55 as well of the current law. I will, why would that be allowed? Why would that be allowed to double dip? As a question, why would government allow it? Or a little bit more complex context, Shaka Zulu, just for thing. But let me go into it first. Let me go into it first. So here you have the clause of section 25 that amends section 55 of the Principal Act to make it clear that persons employed as civil servants may carry on gainful occupation in the islands, including gainful occupation in respect of any restricted area of employment. That is what the recommendation is being put forward to amend the current section 55 of the law right now, and I will read that. So clause 25 is what the government is recommending, that they change the current law so that persons employed, non-Caymanians employed, civil servants may actually work in the Cayman Islands, and including gainful occupation in respect of any respected area of employment. Now, let me break that down in plain English for you, because here is section 55 of what the current law says, okay? Right now, under this current law that is now on the screen, that is the Immigration Transition Act of 2022 revision. Only certain categories of people can legally work in the Cayman Islands under the current law. Now, this includes Caymanians, permanent residents with right to work, people with residence and employment rights certificates, and those who have valid work permits. Now, when it comes to restricted areas of employment, meaning jobs reserved, I wouldn't even say reserved, but predominantly that you'd find a lot of locals working in, mainly Caymanians, the law is even stricter, meaning this law, the old law, the current law is even stricter, because only Caymanians pretty much, and they're saved by, and permanent residents, parents of children of Caymanians, they were giving preferential. We've never had really an occupational list where it carved out certain jobs anyhow for Caymanians. But what I'm saying is certain positions, you would really make sure that Caymanians are available. And we have seen those industries, right? From HR to IT and certain positions, they said local services are available or Caymanians are available. So what the current law really says, this current law now, not what is being proposed, is that this current law sets out a tight list of who can work. And civil servants or government employees are not explicitly mentioned as having the right to take on other jobs. That's what the current law is saying, okay? Civil servants or government employees right now, non-Caymanian persons under the current law are not mentioned as having the right to work in other jobs whilst being on a contract. Now, under this proposed legislation of section clause 25, it adds a clear statement that civil servants, government employees, if passed as proposed, will be allowed to carry on gainful or paid work in the islands. Now, this includes, and I stand to be corrected, remember, we do not have the regulations, so we do not know, again, why it's important for regulations to be part and parcel with these recommendations. As presented, this includes restricted areas possibly as well that would normally have that protection net where, Caymanians are favored or Caymanian-owned businesses can supply the services, right? Which were limited and fewer other categories as well. So what we see now with the current law, civil servants are not clearly allowed to take on other jobs or work in restricted employment areas unless they fall into one of the categories. Let's say there's an exemption or just, there is a special circumstance or an emergency, right? But with this proposed amendment, it's spelling it out that civil servants, non-Caymanians, civil servants will be permitted to work. Even in jobs that were pretty much, they can compete for any position. So the recommendation for this change is basically given government employees, non-Caymanian civil servants that are on contracts. Some, well, you would say they're embedding it into law now, making it crystal clear that they can legally hold jobs or do business in the Cayman Islands, including some areas that were tightly protected by our locals. So for plain English, imagine a Caymanian teacher working in a government school. Under the current law, if that teacher wanted to take a second job, say working in the evenings restaurant, there would be no problem. Spin that now. Spin that now to the non-Caymanian. they would now, once this goes through, be able to apply. Again, the operational arm of the regulations, nobody is seeing that until I guess tomorrow or whenever no, not even tomorrow. I don't know. I can't explain it, to be honest, how this is going to actually play out. And at the end of the day, because of it wasn't being cleared as to whether or not non-Caymanian civil servants could actually work whilst on a contract, it's now being made crystal clear that there are going to be provisions in this recommendation that they can also come out and compete for a second job. It would be totally legal for that teacher as a civil servant to take a second job. Let's say if it was in a restaurant or something, whatever the second job is, they would now be able to do that. Now, some of our locals who are bold enough to speak to me are saying that here we go again. It appears more competition and restricted, more competition for them. And at least you would have thought that maybe the salaries within government, especially as a non-Caymanian, would be enough that they wouldn't also have to be able to, this is where I think the double dipping came in. Double dipping as in you're in a contract for government and now you also want to work external as well. And there's also a perception of imbalance because many Caymanians already feel that expatriates dominate many sectors and pretty much dominate work anyhow, because we agree that we do not have enough locals to fill every role. But with what is being proposed and the realities of life, allowing civil servants to legally take extra jobs could also reinforce the sense that Caymanians are being yet again pushed aside and have even less opportunities. They're already competing with non-civil servants. Now, let me just make it abundantly clear that I am doing this just based on interpretation of what is being said here as being proposed. When you compare what is being proposed by the law and what is in the law, it's correct. It was not clear. Without special permission, I guess, for a part-time job, would that mean then that they would have to get a work permit? Would they be subjected to work permit fees? All of that, all of those intricacies, details, finer tunes of how it works is what actually will be cited or should be cited in the regulations. Yeah. So at the end of the day as well, the economic impact on the flip side, the government may argue that this change helps fill gaps in the labor market that is right now only confined to civil service. They could probably have it in the back of their mind that it supports economic activity and also therefore giving civil servants more flexibility. But how are you going to be spinning the narrative? I'm just saying that you're there to protect your locals who are already feeling disenfranchised, who are already accepted the fact that they're outnumbered, when socially, Caymanians are worried that it reduces their chances yet again of securing upward jobs, or just the competition. It's just getting flooded. It's really, really getting flooded. So in layman's terms, what the amendment will do, it makes it easier for civil servants who want to earn extra income. But for Caymanians who've already feeling squeezed in their own job market at home, it could feel like another door being left open to outsiders in a space where, it's already just too much. Mhm. How this is going to be implemented now, like I said, will largely depend on the language and the process contained in the regulations. And even if it becomes a reality, I'm hoping that there will be some safeguarding measures that will probably be discussed at some point, and or policies that could pretty much balance this amendment, this change, so that Caymanians don't feel further disadvantaged by this harsh reality of a recommendation. So let's see what some of you are saying. Double dipping. Carlene, I'd be more concerned with that people employed by government find it necessary to have a second job, that the cost of living is such that their government salary is not sufficient to allow them a good work-life balance, to allow them to live, to have only one job. Allinger, that I agree with you, but that was not the impetus of what the Caymanians were asking for. They were asking for protection because right now we are outnumbered, better job opportunities, and this just doesn't say that. So it's like one thing is being said in words, and when you read and dissect the law, when you read and dissect the proposed recommendations for amendments, it's like, what are you saying? It's another door left wide open. Shaka Zulu, if the government is supposedly looking out for the generational Caymanians, why would the government allow contract workers to double dip in the job market? I figured that's where you were going, Shaq. Well, excellent question for them. I hope they can answer that tomorrow. Or whenever, because again, the importance of me doing what I am doing here with the clause is the fact that this is not me saying this. Clause 25 says it all. It amends Section 55 of the Principal Act to make it clear that persons employed as civil servants may carry on gainful occupation in the islands, including gainful occupation in respect of any restricted area of employment. That is leaving it open that should we have a occupational priorities list that is saved for Caymanians only or permanent residents only, this recommendation automatically exempts them from that. That's what's being recommended. It's making it abundantly clear that should there be, in the short term or long term, certain positions are earmarked for Caymanians only, they would be exempted. 936-8255 to weigh in on this, should you feel the need to. Darlene McKenzie, how you doing? Good evening, my love. Best government in history. None of them know better than Honorable McKeeva Bush. Barbara G, good evening. How are you? Hope you're continuing on your men. Lavana and Dawn, I hope you guys are good. Carrie, well, that is just more Deputy Governor SHIT. He's stuffing down our throats. Nothing at all about safety of tenure for natives. So the Deputy Governor will screw us even further. Wow, that is wrong. But prosecutors in the DOP are working privately in law firms. Genocide. Oh, it's a genocide for us. Guys, we have asked, you know what, let me just continue. Let me just continue with some of the things, because that's real. That's real. I'm hoping, let me before I give the synopsis of what that is, because I know that's a lot for you all to palate this evening. because it's there. And we're on the eve of when this particular legislation will be, or supposedly, tabled to go before the House. Now, I'm hoping that me highlighting these things in granular detail is not a personal opinion, it's my interpretation. But the mere fact that I'm getting this type of response, it clearly states that this particular clause was not one of those that were explained in layman's term for what it means, seeing it on all sides, right? So I'm hoping that there may be some very good safeguards or policies that would create this balance that our Caymanians do not feel disenfranchised by that recommendation. Maybe they may be proposing a quota or some sort of cap system that we already know that there are going to be term limits and all that sort of stuff, right? But this whole thing, how much will there be a cap or a quota on how many civil servants, especially, well, of course you would have the expatriates. How much would be allowed to take on second jobs in restricted areas? Should there be a national occupational list that is reserved, let's say, for Caymanians, right? Because if that is indeed the case, this would possibly prevent the job market from being flooded and keep space for reserved Caymanians. We already know that there are almost 4,500. I stand to be corrected, but there's over 4,000 civil servants. This does not include statutory authorities, right? Can you imagine? We do not know how to extrapolate those from the Caymanians, from the spouse of Caymanians, from the PR holders. We would need, again, data, information to really find out how many expatriate workers that doesn't have PR, isn't married to Caymanian, and Caymanians to be removed from that total number. And that's the risk. If this is just going to be blanket and every non-Caymanian civil servant is now able to come out once and if this law is passed as proposed, you're also going to be competing with every one of those. Bearing in mind, the Honorable Minister said that come January of 2026, there's going to be over 40,000 work permits and counting. He didn't include the non-Caymanian civil servants that are going to also be competing. Yeah. He's not, that wasn't included. Good evening, Colin. You're live. What's on your mind?
Hi, good evening, Sabrina. It's Kara from the Brack calling to ruffle some feathers.
How are you?
I'm good. I'll keep it clean. I'll try.
Well, you had
Anyway.
me. I was spelling it. I didn't call it. I was spelling it.
That's okay. I understand. That's fine. I'm okay with calling them big pound words. No problem for me. My point of all of this is we have been allowing that to happen in the civil service for quite some time. It's not to benefit anybody but the individual who's on that government contract, because we don't get no value for money from that situation. So what we're basically saying is, we're going to hire you on a government contract, pay you a little bit of money, not enough for your worth. But if you find a second job out there, we will grant you the permission to go and do that second job, regardless of what it is. You can put in a half a day with us and get the same pay. That's basically what that is saying. And there is the competition further. We're in so much competition for a job in our country, and it's pathetic. It's nothing shy of genocide. We have to compete with thousands every month who's on that 10-day grace period in between permits being changed, canceled, whatever. You get that 10 days to walk around this country. We got to compete with thousands of them every week in this country. Now we're going to compete with another bunch of people from the civil service who you think the private sector is going to favor. They're working in the government. If I get them a job,
You get
they're
it.
going to fuel my situation out here for me, help me get my things passed faster, and so
Oh
on and
my
so
God.
forth. We're oppressing the micro business owners out here who are how many hundreds have they closed down in the last 3 years? The DCI refused to keep an account of or produce. I've asked for it now for one. They don't even know. That is the other issue, Sabrina.
Hmm?
We are being grotesquely out sold in our own country like slaves. We are not getting value for money from our employees in the administrative government. And now we're going to hand out an additional um, extension of our good graces to more people who have absolutely nothing but a contract with us that should be a 1 year contract, not 4 or 5 years like most of them are now. 1 year. If you don't prove yourself in that time, you're gone. Simple. Let's start finding a Caymanian that can take this job. We are not doing anything to roll out the red carpet for our people. In fact, what we've rolled out for our people is nothing but hell and nails and barbed wire, while everybody else get a red carpet glistening with diamonds. We are the most oppressed in this country. We have a governor who's sitting out there right now drinking tea and watching sunset on 7 Mile Beach. Then hear what's going on, because my sources tell me she listens to all the shows as much as she can. So she's hearing your show right now. And I want her to notice, Your Excellency, you need to deal with what's going on in this country. It's genocide. And you don't want that to go down in history, because we can blow this word up in this country starting tomorrow and prove to the world that the entire administrative government run by the deputy governor and approved and fully supported by the attorney general has inflicted also not just homelessness in a minority on this country, but now a genocide. Hear me? When you can allow people, you're overseeing your civil service, but people are stealing our money by the hundreds of thousands for multiple years and nobody see those red flags. What does that tell me? We have no clue, Sabrina, when we take these people to court, if any of this money was ever recovered from them. We do not know. Nobody tells us this. Who is the watchdog for the money of the country? And even the people of the country. We thought the NCFC was going to be our watchdog. What is going on? Why are we allowing these things to go to Parliament and be argued, rolling out red carpets for every other nationality but our own citizens? This is absolute genocide. And I'm not going to say it's not that. It is that. And I want everybody to go and look it up, see what the meaning of it is, and see if that's not what's happening in this country. And those of you sitting down watching it and seeing it and afraid to speak up, remember, majority is what kills minority. Okay? And we are right now feeling that when it comes to the numbers in our country. But those of us who still rise up and go against all of this stuff that is genocide, what are you going to do to all of us at once? They can't do nothing to all of us at once. We need to take out our flashlights, turn them on high, shine the light on all the corruption in this country that our administrative government has dished out to us and is dishing out to us repeatedly every day, cutting our throats. Because that entire thing is a cutthroat right there now, Sabrina. They're putting legislation into enacting legislation once they go to Parliament and debate this. I want to hear, what is the PPM going to say about it? The opposition. Are they supporting the further cutting our throats? Because they were participating in that as well. When they did the mass TLEPs blanket those approvals without giving them one restriction on the TLEPs, nothing at all. So let's hear what they're going to say to allow that to go through. They might as well put us all up against a fucking wall, excuse my French, and shoot us and get rid of us out of our own country since I don't want the fucking country and take us over.
Carrie,
Sorry,
please keep it clean.
I'm
Keep it
sorry.
clean. I know it's very
I'm sorry.
emotive, but you know what? Just so you can catch your breath, as I sit here and I hear the pain in your voice and I'm seeing the feedback on the live, how much Caymanians in the past have asked permission to take up a part-time job and has had the door slapped in their face? And now we're going to embed this in law that even allow them to go into areas that, let's say, futuristic. We have certain occupations or industries that is only for Caymanians. How this is worded, they would be exempted from that.
Exactly. Exactly. Is that fair to us? Is that even that is the subtle genocide that's been occurring for a very long time, and governments of the past knew it, just didn't want to bother to address it. We put the NCFC in power now and we're hoping they would have addressed it, but it looks like somebody has addressed it for them other than they did. I mean, this is not right.
No,
This is
but what I'm saying
absolutely not
is
right at all.
how can you be running persons saying don't come here if you're not going to employ Caymanians, and be the same one to deliver a piece of legislation that pretty much keeps the door open? It's not making
Exactly.
sense. It's one of two things,
I was-
or they didn't read. Because if you read line by line each clause and make it make sense, certain things that are being said would not have been said.
Exactly.
Because you can't, on one hand, be running people who are going to be paying, and then, oh, but here, let's open it up. Let's cut the civil service in half for the sake of this conversation and say we're going to have 2,100 of you out here. You can just go and get part-time jobs.
Exactly. Compete for other work. We used to have 5 jobs in our country. We can't even get one anymore. What does that say about the lies that have been fed to us all these years on the platforms when they get out there promising us the world and never delivered any of it?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to be too critical yet of the NCFC, but if this is what you're bringing, and I was waiting for somebody to bring it, if this is what you're bringing, then you're not basically doing what you said you were going to do. And that was to protect us and put us to the top of the pinnacle of this country, the native citizens of this country. And we're not talking about status holders. We're talking about the real generational Caymanians. What happened to them? If you don't talk like me and you have an accent like us, you ain't a generational real Caymanian. You are one that came here and got your papers from long ago. Some of you try to imitate us, but I don't get that. I'm telling you, I don't get that spot we're trying out of me.
Mm-hmm.
But in fact, we have a system that is failing us miserably. Now we're going to add more clauses to the act that's going to further fail us. What is that saying about it? There's no protection there for us at all. I'm sorry, we do not allow that. I don't care. The civil service people are working there to get benefits, a lot of benefits as a civil servant, and they want now to come and compete out here with us for a little part-time work. No, that's not fair. Why are we not getting those part-time jobs? I was just treated with the most unfairness possibly that you can think about for a little job up here working in the library, Sabrina.
Mm-hmm.
You can't, but you don't want to know what they did to me, but it's okay. I understand that I'm blacklisted by the Cayman Islands government because I raise issues about all the plethora of money they've stolen from me, all the stuff they've done to me, and don't bother to care. Nobody's doing their jobs in the departments, and I highlight it and bring it out and show you all the genocide that's going on, and nobody is addressing it. And what? I get blacklisted. I must starve in my own country, a daughter of the soil. What does that say about you, Deputy Governor, and the Cayman Islands government? What is that saying about all of you? You're nothing but a bunch of jokers, wasting our money, lying to us, and a bunch of them are stealing our money as well, as was shown today, how much $138,000 can buy you in car washes. with fake invoices and purchase orders. Nobody is keeping a check of what's going on with our money either. We are a total righteous mess. And the deputy governor is one of them that created this mess for us. And he can deny it all he wants. Just take a look at that man in the position he's in. Look at the power he has and tell me if he can't change things for the better for our country, for our people. But he don't want to, because he know that when we see that he is not who he really is, then of course, what? We get ousted by him, we get blacklisted by him, we get called every name in the book by him and treated like this, because he pushed for this, Sabrina. He offers people talking it. He pushed for this to ensure that people in the civil service on contracts with the government got to take on other jobs in private sector if they wanted to, while still holding their government job. And that should only be allowed to native citizens of this country. Not even status holders should get that right.
But
that's how I feel.
What do you
They
say?
don't like
But
it.
what do you say to the cabinet ministers that are there for the voice of the people, which is what I am saying does not make sense? Somebody
Well,
who is there fighting for Caymanians and saying they're going to close the door did not read this piece of legislation. Because if they had read and understood what that particular clause is saying, they wouldn't have uttered certain statements.
Exactly. Clearly, Michael has not been briefed on what they actually did to the legislation process. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt that he is unaware. And I'm hoping he's listening so he can go now and make himself aware and ensure that what it comes to the House is really what is in favor of the native citizens of this country, the Caymanians of this country, and not in favor of everyone else. That is unfair to us because we have been giving them favor since 2003 with the mass status grant. And what have we gotten from that? A plethora of bull crap thrown at us because we are Caymanian. And the minute we open our mouth, now you hear our accent, we are hated on, despised, called bitter, called this, called whatever. And you had to fly into my country to make a better life for yours. You not see me up in yours, causing yours in a disgrace or any disdain to any of your people in your country, but you and mine doing that and wanting citizenship and all the rights like I have. No, it can't happen. If we don't get that change, we're going to have a civil war. That's all there is
But
to it.
what if it's a case where, again, devil's advocate, and this is just for conversational purposes, right? At the end of the day, what if it is a case where they're saying, well, we're just making it clear in the law, which is exactly one of the angles that I was coming from, because it's already happening anyhow by special circumstance. But okay, fine. If it is even already being done, Carrie, the mere fact that this particular clause is amending it to have the doors wide open, even in restricted areas, is not by any means a select few. This is why I'm hoping that the regulations will have some safeguards and policies that may probably have a cap or a quota and priority, let's say hiring rules, and that there will be some monitoring and reporting. I don't know. And even limiting the types of jobs and for the duration as well. Because you can't just leave it open unless you give the flip side of what you're going to do or say what methods and processes you're going to put in place that gives Caymanian safeguards. Right now, I'm being presented with no context, no regulations, obviously never explained properly. Guess what? This is the feedback you're getting.
Yep. And you're not going to like the feedback in 2029 either if it don't fix it. That need to come back and fix and remove and taken out and not allowed unless you're a native citizen. I'm sick of these status holders getting all these privileges in this country and they don't deserve it. The majority of them do not like us, don't care about us, and they're the one created that stigmatism around us that we lay there because they wanted to make sure they paved the way for their family members to also join them here and get the jobs that they considered us and condemned us in as being lazy. And that's unfair to us. That's genocide. And nobody is addressing that. And I'm really very, very upset right now. I don't know if I should say I'm upset because it's not like it's not a surprise. I knew it. I told people, I said, when I see it enshrined in law, the protection, then I will agree they have done a
But Carrie,
fantastic job.
we
But
have done
this not enshrined.
we have done our best with trying to dissect this. Remember, I told you I had no intentions of doing it. Allow them to do their job, right? But then there was a public call. Sabrina, just do it. Sabrina, just do it.
Yeah.
Break it down in layman's terms. All I'm doing is delivering. They had these beautiful road shows or whatever you want to call them. How come I'm not hearing these in any one of the talk shows that they presented? Because it was a sales pitch and not a consultation. Exactly what Danny was alluding to. And this is why the space was created to hear back from you. And I'm only presenting it. I'm giving it to you food for thought. And look at what we have unearthed.
Exactly.
So
And it's not fair to the people of this country who went out there on the 30th of April and voted for protection for the native Caymanian citizens. We got no protection in this amendment to the law. None at all. None. You got your deputy governor out there supporting all of his civil servants on contracts. He should not be doing that. That is just very, very biased and prejudice, if you want to call it that, against his own people. If that's what he wants, then everybody who ever came in that applies for a government job should be given one. That's
Okay.
all I'm saying. I tell you what, if they don't hurry up and give me one, I gotta take them to court for it.
there we go.
And I gotta get legal aid to represent me.
Aye. Leave me there. We got another call coming in. Thank you so much for your contribution. Take care.
Thank you.
Good evening, caller. You're live on Sabrina Speaks. What's on your mind?
Yeah, yeah, Sabrina, good evening to you.
Hi.
Boy, you sound big old pitful again.
I try to bring it home. I'm only delivering it.
Well, we should all tip our hat off to Mario Rankin and Denny Warren because both of them said that the things that they were going out there was just a show.
Mm-hmm.
They said it, and
Mm-hmm.
now we can see
Mm-hmm.
that's never come home to us.
Mm-hmm.
And where is the command? We need to do with that what they did when McNeil said that he was going to bring the taxes to the foreigners. Every foreign and Caymanians jumped on the bandwagon. Timber commerce and everybody jumped up and says what he's doing is wrong. And what they may do? Pull it off the table. So to make them pull it back off the table.
Well, caller, to be honest with you, there have been calls here and in other forums as well, and I'm hearing there possible some direct representations being made as well to slow the passage of this bill down. Pretty much redo the whole consultation period, allowing time to pretty much expand a little bit more, give better rationale behind the changes to ensure that Caymanians feel adequately protected. We don't know.
Well, you need to do.
You're going in and out, caller. I think
Yeah. I said that's what we need to do. Maybe we need to get a petition going to the government and say no, they're not satisfied.
Do you know this is slated to go before the House of Parliament in this sitting, which starts tomorrow. I don't know where it would fall on the agenda, but this is slated to be tabled tomorrow.
And stand up, the tickets, whatever.
Mm-hmm. There you go. I can only deliver it. It's
Yeah,
up for
okay.
us. I've created the space, and like you rightfully say, Danny and myself have just been making it as clear as possible, inviting persons to weigh in on it, calling you, inviting persons to reach out to their MPs to say, look, hold it down for a little bit. It's the holidays. What's the rush? It's okay if you want to do a checkbox exercise, but how can you say you're closing the gate and protecting Caymanians when you're putting something like this in law?
to close the gate and see the horse on the side, that's for us left us.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. That's another one for us again.
There we go. Thank you. Thank you
Okay,
for your
nothing.
contribution. Yeah, keep listening in. Yes, there you have it. I mean, ladies and gentlemen, to all of our viewers, you're invited to give me your feedback on this. And let me just read some of the comments here. Shaka Zulu said, for example, an immigration contracted expat employee going to work for a private employer that pursues the expat to provide insider information, confidential data, etc. Shaka Zulu, yep, that is a risk. That is a risk. Not saying that they can't even talk now, but it even is more of a risk now. If this actually goes through, you just have to hope that the person is not going to do that. Yeah. Shaka Zulu also says, I see that double dipping as a security, you see it as a security issue amongst other conflicts of interest. Well said there. What happens when an expat judge takes a job with a private firm and is exposed to judicial pressure from the private sector employer? Now, you see where I'm telling you there are more questions than answers, and we are flying blind because we have no regulations. But even with regulations, how this is worded, it clearly, clause 25 says, including gainful occupation in respect of any restricted area of employment. That was deliberately put in there that would actually exempt persons should there be any occupations or jobs reserved exclusively for natives or permanent residents or PR holders or spouse of Caymanians, that once you are a civil servant, you could still apply. What's your thoughts? 936-8255 is the number to call. I'd love to get you to weigh in on this one because this is something that is recommended. And when you look at what is recommended, for whatever reason, because we don't have full context of what the current law is saying now, that gave us more protection than what is being proposed. Good evening, caller. Welcome to Sabrina Speaks. What's on your mind?
Well, first of all, good evening, Sabrina, and good evening to the listeners and the callers especially. Look, maybe you should have had, the way they have like Black History Month or Cancer Month or something.
Mm-hmm.
I think you should have had like an immigration month. Just talk about that alone. You would have had more than enough.
Oh God, yeah.
And
that's why I'm going off grid from the 19th.
but you are doing quite well racing towards that month, But Sabrina, but it is a good thing. Seriously, it's a good thing that you are highlighting these things because not everybody reads them in detail, and even those who try to read them, it is very hard for them to understand. So they will rely on somebody like you, who, with all your background in immigration as a former minister and everything else, to be able to bring it to a show and talk about it. So it's very good that you are doing that. Now, the provision that you read, I haven't read it myself, but from the way it sounds, it appears like they are doing the opposite of what they are supposed to be doing.
You get it.
They are doing the opposite, and the way I see this is as follows. I try to see it in like in a broader context of accountability in government, right? Because I don't see how a government can come in and act the way they are acting. Let's go back into history, to the last 22 years. How did government decide in 2003, 2004 to give mass grants.
Mm-hmm.
There are two stories. One story is, well, some people went to the British government and the governor to say, well, we've been in Cayman such a long time and we can't get PR, we can't get status. And the British government leaned on the Cayman government. That's one story. The other story is, well, actually, it was as Cayman was approaching 2003, which is the 500th year since Cayman was discovered.
Mm-hmm.
They wanted to celebrate it in some way. Now, I don't know how true that is, but if it is true, it is one of the most foolish ways to celebrate the discovery of your country, by starting the process of giving it away. Okay?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
You are saying, oh yeah, Cayman was discovered 500 years ago. Let us celebrate it. And now let us give status to people, some of whom had been in Cayman only 4 years, didn't even qualify for PR. Some people were, I understand, even one person was in jail and so on and so forth. And then after that is done, then what happened? They announced that they were going to introduce rollover in government. Mr. McCarthy, then Chief Secretary, sent out a circular. Weeks later, we found it was withdrawn. Why was it withdrawn? I don't know. And now, 20 years later, it has come back, and they want to introduce rollover in government after the horse really has just about bolted.
About
right?
15 years, 16 years, because we're at the end of the year now. It's about 16 years, going into 16 years.
Yeah, about there, right? And then try to look at also what they have done over time. The PPM came in after the mass grants, and they condemned the mass grants. They really got elected principally on their condemnation of the mass grants. And then they came in as well. They gave their own little mass grants when they said, oh, you guys for TLEPs, who we had said that you can't apply for PR because you have signed a document to say you won't apply for PR. Now that you are in your 6th or 7th year, we will not implement that policy, and then you apply for PR. I watched the debate in the House. There were some MPs who said, well, this is also like a mini mass grant.
Mm-hmm.
And then they amended the Regulation 6 of the immigration regulations, the one which said that when you apply for a work permit, you should give a succession plan. You shall give a succession plan, yes.
Mm-hmm.
And then they amended it to say may. Okay, why did they do that? They were just still, again, trying to undercut the Caymanians. And then you look at the way a lot of the ministers were talking coming to the last election.
Mm-hmm.
Many ministers didn't want to talk about it. There were some good ministers in government who really, I think, really wanted reform. But the majority did not. The majority, when they went on radio, they were just being forced to say, hey, look, why don't you do something about immigration? Then they would say, well, yeah, they would give a feeble response to that. Like, yes, I think we need to have immigration reform and so forth. So ultimately, when the new government came in, really they were not committed to real immigration reform. And if you look at the last 20 years, really, there's no government which really has tackled it properly. And even now, what this government is doing, it is just because they were forced to do it. And when you force somebody to do it, then when they do it, they won't do it all the way. They will do it, in a very dishonest way. In my view, I will tell you, I think they are just cheating the people out of. They don't intend to really effect reform because they have refused to answer questions like, why don't you set a quota? They don't want to talk about that.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want to talk about ensuring you don't exceed the net birth rate.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, that idea that you should not exceed the net birth rate, that is one which, even if it were to be challenged in a court of law, I think it would really, the government would still succeed because it is rational, it is proportionate, it is based on, it is based on the preservation of the rights or to self-determination of Caymanians and all that. And then now they want to continue with this by saying, "Oh, okay, we might
Yeah.
look at it again. I think let's do something now." Now,
Yeah.
if you accept that, then you are foolish. You are a total fool,
Exactly.
because that is what the politicians everywhere do. You see, they tell you, no. Let's look at it carefully. Let's at least do something. Do you know how long it will take before they can do another meaningful reform?
Huh.
Let me give you an example. You remember the issue about the mortgages? It really came to a head about 2018 when
Right.
Steve McField and Kenneth Bryan and the others were talking about it. And then they said, okay, no, Kenneth Bryan actually was going to bring a motion to the House to say that there should be a parliamentary committee to look at protection for Caymanians for mortgages, and that within 6 months it should report back to the House. And somehow in there, the motion eventually wasn't brought. Why? Because there are people who were saying, no, let's do it by self-supervision. Now, the reason I bring that in is because it is only now that there is a bill now which they say has been prepared to go to the Legislative Assembly. How long ago is that? This is now 7 years after. Okay? 7 years after. Why? Because they were just buying time. They didn't
Well,
want to reform
who
the
are
issue.
they? Who's buying time when you've heard Caymanians?
The government.
The operational
government was
arm or
buying
the
time.
elected arm?
To me, it is the elected arm, because if the elected arm wanted it to be done, it was going to be done.
But bearing
Okay.
in mind, and you've worked there were a lot of things, putting on my former hat, that I wanted to get done.
Yeah.
And there just was no bandwidth in order to bring it over the finish line in a timely manner. So I can see where that's not always the case.
Yes, I mean, look, to me, at the end of the day, it's a loss of trust.
Okay.
Okay, it's a loss of trust, because you see, this is a problem when you lose trust. It's a little bit like crying wolf, right? I mean, sometimes you cry, maybe the wolf is coming, it's not coming. So the time when you cry, when the wolf is really coming, nobody's going to help. So I don't know if it's the best analogy, but basically what I'm trying to say is that once, as a government, you
Caller? Yeah, I think he's gonna have to call back. But hello, caller, are you back? I think he got a call. But there you have it from the caller. 936-8255 is the number to call. 345-936-8255 is the number to call to join in on this conversation. And I'm quite sure we were talking about just before that caller got cut. And Jim, yes, I'm going to give Balika a kaboom on your request. That was in regards to the part where he was talking about celebrating and the status grants were just given. So I'm getting that's what that was for you, that you were asking for a kaboom. For those of you who were intently listening, you may think I'm not listening, but I knew exactly when I saw that come in and what they were saying. Yes, Carrie, he is a wealth of knowledge and puts things into even more perspective, like yourself. And thank you for participating as well. Yep, see, I pay attention. Even though you don't see me look as though I'm listening, I kind of judge it based on what, and yeah, it's just multiple things you have to do. But yeah, I'm just hoping that this evening, with all of you that are listening, that are in tuned, and I know some of you are actually policymakers. I know a lot of you are probably people in that parliament as well that is listening to this and probably didn't see this. And I think the country deserves an explanation as to why this is so explicit, pretty much future-proofing civil servants being able then to also in the future compete with your own Caymanians. And if that is going to remain and you have a valid explanation, I hope the explanation will include some safeguards or policies that will give clear balance so that your own voters, your Caymanians, don't feel further disadvantaged. I am quite sure that there are a number of civil servants in there, Caymanian civil servants, that would either want to open their own business or take second or possibly, second jobs that have been actually questioned or put through the ringer. Now, here again, you have this almost feeling like a slap in the face. Because on one hand, you're saying something, and on the other hand, you're dishing them what? Crap. You have heard it in the people's voices. I'm just delivering it. I am hoping that some of the explanation and the policies that you will put in place will include some sort of quota or cap system. It will probably have some priority of hiring rules, and that at least make it clear and be honest about it, that there will be restricted categories of side hustle that they would not be able to do. And frontline jobs, we don't know. But the bigger thing that's afoot here that came about in one of the comments is confidentiality, conflicts of interest. This is sounding loud. Are they going to be certain persons holding certain contracts that are not supposed to work with certain organizations? How can you do that? Will they then be able to, will they have to apply for a work permit? How would that work? Or because you're already a civil servant, that you don't have to go through the work permit process. You just need permission from government. More than likely, I think that it would be wise that they would be still subjected to a work permit that would be processed like any other work permit and is entitled to be rejected, refused. And it isn't given as any exceptional circumstances because it's somebody who's already legal and ordinarily resident, AKA a contracted civil servant. Isn't that the process in order to protect your people? Well, maybe if more context was given, this wouldn't be so bold this evening. I will repeat. People have asked for this to slow down, for more context, for more rationale behind some of these changes, but we have taken the line that has been emphasized by the elected arm, that the reform is designed to balance stability for employers with fairness for workers. But the debate that we're seeing here is like, it's something else going on. And that is why it is important for clear communication, transparency, honesty at all times. Okay, fine, we're all human beings. If this was a oversight that you didn't realize the impact, or I don't know what type of explanation or justification was given to the caucus in order to make this here. And maybe it was legitimately a case where it has already been done and you just scuffed it off. The problem lies with the end part of the clause. That is where the problem is. It says, including gainful occupation in respect of any restricted areas of employment. Any. You know how powerful that word is when it comes to us Caymanians really trying to find our place? Yeah. It says any. And that, my friends, is a problem. And I feel that you are and you deserve an explanation for more clarity, to be honest with you. You deserve more explanation on that. There's also another clause. I must be saying, what you coming with again? What you find again? Section 26. Now that clause says 26 amends Section 58 of the Principal Act to make mandatory for prospective employers, unless exempted by Cabinet, the board or director of work, A, to pay a prescribed non-refundable fee to register a vacancy to which an application for a work permit relates, for the vacancy to be posted on an electronic portal established and managed by WORC for a period of 21 days before the submission of the application. The application in this case is a work permit. And B, advertise the vacancy to which the application relates in a local newspaper or other prescribed media for a period of 21 days before the submission of the application. Again, application here is the work permit. The clause also amends Section 58 of the Principal Act to provide that among the matters that are to be taken into account in respect of an application for the grant or renewal of a work permit is whether the resources or the proposed salary of the worker are able to support the worker, and if applicable, the worker's spouse or civil partner. Where there are dependents, it would also take into account whether the resources or the proposed salary meet the prescribed financial standing requirements to be able to support the dependents. I bet you're wondering, did they give anybody that thought to you for what they proposed? That's the amendment to Section 58. Did I save that one now so that you can see Section 58 in its term? That one was so long, I couldn't catch that one. So please just trust me on this one. After what I've read there, that is what's being recommended. Let me take this off because what this is showing is Section 26. Okay. What I just read was what is recommended. And that now, my friend, is amending Section 58 of the current law. And pretty much what Section 58 of the current law is saying in synopsis format is that, oh Lord, there we go. Section 58 of the law, it's huge. No wonder I couldn't get it. 58. Okay, let me try it. That is on page 68 of the current Immigration Transition Act of 2022. It starts on page 68 and goes into 69, and it says consideration of a work permit for the work permit board, etc. And it has about 1, 2, 3, 5. It has 6 different subsections. Okay, so for a matter of time, just let me tell you what the current law says based on what now is being recommended, right? And it's pretty much easy. Section 58 says that employers must now, and you already know this pretty much because it has been spoken to publicly, that should they really need to employ someone from outside, meaning an expat, not a Caymanian, they must post the job on WORC's electronic portal for 14 days before applying for a work permit. This is what the current law is saying. This current law is also saying that they must also advertise in a newspaper, but it's optional, okay? Once you post on WORC, you don't have to advertise in a newspaper. When reviewing a work permit application, the board also takes into consideration things like the worker's qualification, their health, their reputation, whether or not, again, the salary is enough to support the worker and their family, whether Caymanians are being trained for similar roles. This current law also says that the protection of Caymanian interest and whether or not Caymanians or residents could fill the role. The other part of the current law also says that there are also penalties if any employer hides information, any material fact that a Caymanian applied for the job and wasn't successful, right? That's what the current law is saying. Now, what the proposed amendment is saying, let me go back there. What this proposed amendment is saying is what here that I have here in section 26. The proposed amendment is saying now that employers must now pay a non-refundable fee to register the vacancy. I stand to be corrected. We still need the regulations. It's also saying that the job must be posted on this WORC portal for 21 days instead of 14. It also is saying that advertisement in a local newspaper or other approved media is now mandatory. It is no longer an option. So in addition to posting it on a WORC portal, Caymanian employers listening up, it's mandatory for you to also post it in a local newspaper or other approved media. And also what is being recommended is when considering a work permit, the board must specifically check whether or not the salary resources are enough to support not just the worker, but also their spouse or civil partner. And also what is being proposed, if the workers has dependents, whether or not the salary meets a set of financial standard to support them. You all may hear me grunting every time I read some of this thing, and I'm in pain. Have anybody really done a financial assessment on Caymanians to find out if their salary is sufficient to meet their needs? Caymanian? Are you seeing the amount of emphasis that is being put here? You can't get a cola, but are you seeing what's being embedded here? When last have you actually had the real conversation to say, look, we have heard stories here on this space that says there are civil servants working in a position for 17 years and never one day outside a cola have been uplifted. Let me continue. In plain language, what is being proposed is longer advertising periods. And they're also now mandating newspaper advertisements. Employers can't skip the advertising in any local media or any other approved sources what's being proposed. What this is actually doing for more employers, it's adding yet again for Caymanian-owned businesses. I know it's used as a deterrent, but you've already established, it has already been established that we do not have enough locals to fill every role, right? But what it's actually doing, how are you going to deter when you're actually adding on another expense yet again that you must pay a fee to register the vacancy as well? There's also going to be stricter financial checks. And, we're hoping then that work permit applications will be judged more carefully on whether the worker's salary can realistically support their family. Now, really and truly, what does this mean in practice? Let's look at it from both sides. Caymanian, and let's say Caymanian employer, okay? For the Caymanians, and again, 345-936-8255 is the number to call to join in on this live discussion. I would love to get your feedback. It's not just me. This is on the eve of this bill going to Parliament, possibly in the sitting that starts tomorrow. Where this bill falls on the agenda, I don't know, okay? Just for those of you just joining us. For the Caymanians, you may see this process as being more visibility for job openings, okay? Since ads must now run for longer periods of times in newspaper and other approved advertising sites. What are they? It also, from a Caymanian's perspective, possibly seeing a better chance of them applying before a permit is granted to an expatriate or a civil servant who is also now in the competition line. And from the perspective of employers, all this is signaling more paperwork, more cost yet again, and longer waiting times before they can hire someone to fill that gap. We're just looking at it from the employer's perspective. I'm not going to be lopsided. I'm just delivering facts. And for the foreigners, especially if they're in an environment or with unscrupulous employers, it's harder possibly to get a work permit and offer a high enough salary to support their dependents, okay? And that's what it can mean. Now, I did do a little bit here just to make my explanation a little bit easier for you to digest. Okay, let's look at both sides. How our very own locals, Caymanians, can feel about these changes and how employers can also look at it. And there you see on your screen, I have some pros and cons, okay, at the end of the day. Now, you may look at it as more protection, yes, for the longer advertising. You will see the whole 21 days now instead of 14. And you're looking now at the mandatory newspaper ads, meaning Caymanians get more time and visibility to apply before, let's say, a work permit is even granted, right? And then you look then at the whole fairness part of it. And I've deliberately put this up here for context, because sometimes when you see the image and you can do the negative sides and you can see the positive sides, right? So you will see where stronger checks on whether expatriates can financially support themselves and their families, and a greater sense of fairness and transparency in the hiring process. The negative sides for the Caymanian workers is that even with the safeguards, employers may still prefer expats if they believe locals lack the skills, and if they feel that the bureaucracy without real enforcement, if employers go through the motions but still hire from overseas. Okay. Now, when you look at it from the employer's perspective, right? These are clearer rules that may help justify hiring overseas when no Caymanian applies or the skill set is adequately available locally. And it's also a positive for the employer where a transparent process protects against, hold on, I'm getting an image here. Let me just top back up this Facebook. My Facebook is giving me a little thing. Boy. Here we go. Let me add it back. There we go. Facebook, you may have gone down. We're back. We're back. We know we hitting a nerve when it goes down. That always happens when we get hot topics. Interesting. Anyhow, you can see where, where was I? Even lost my trend. Bypassing Caymanians. And then from the Caymanian employer side of things, the positive side of it is financial checks on expatriates and it being able to reduce the risk of workers struggling and needing public assistance. Okay. Now, at the end of the day, the negative side from an employer is that we're seeing definitely longer delays of 21 days plus the mandatory ads. And that, my friends, can slow down urgent hiring. There's an added cost on top of already the other higher fees that are there when there could be legitimately a skill set gap, not adequately enough or inadequate amount of locals in order to do the job. And then there's a non-refundable fee plus the advertising expenses. And then there's also the risk of losing skilled overseas candidates they still may not be willing to wait or for the processing time. So here we go from the employer perspective that there's now more paperwork and compliance burden, especially on those micro and small businesses, right? So that's it. So in summary, what this particular section is saying, my dear friends, is that yes, the amendment has stronger protection, more time, visibility, and stricter checks to ensure that, our locals get the first-hand choice, but employers see it or can see it as here we go again. But yet, none of this was going to impact locals. None of it was going to impact, that broad statement. And when you dissect it and you really look at it clearly, you're seeing something else is being said. Because from an employer's perspective, from the agreeance or for the revelation of the very own government officials saying, no time soon are the demand for work permits going to go away. Come January of 2026, we're going to have over 40,000 and counting more work permits. Caymanian employers, you're going to be faced with more extra costs, longer delays, and here we go, a risk of losing skilled workers that desperately needed when your contracts could be held up because of a bureaucratic system. Please do not misunderstand what I'm saying. We're not saying that all of this legislation is bad. We're just saying more context was definitely needed. Yes. Connie, what kind of whole heap of confusion this? Oh my God. Added more expense. Yes, Jim, you're quite right. Damian Hendry, all they are going to do is dump the resumes, CVs that they don't want. Posting the advert is just a front. Corruption at the highest level. Yes, that's what is being proposed. However, again, as you've noticed me at many times during any of my episodes, says subject to change. This is just based on interpretation. Without the regulations, Jim, we don't know. Okay, Mia. This is a quick fix to check off the boxes. Mia Lobo also says, why do we have to advertise in a local paper when people do not really read the newspaper? Well, now it's mandatory, so there you go. Maybe you can open up a newspaper business, Caymanians. There you go, and hope you get on that approved list. Mia Lobo further says, we are already advertising with work. It's just making sure that everybody and employers alike get it out there so that no local can say, we did not know. I think it's diversification, but what are your thoughts on diversifying where jobs are available? Do you feel it's best to just go one central location and just have all of the postings there? Or what is being proposed right now, mandatory advertising as well as being posted on WORC? What are your thoughts? I'd like to hear them. Hey, Denver, how are you? Kudos to Mr. Michael Miles and team for tightening up the rules and regulations, much needed until we can solve the many issues we have undermining Caymanians in the workforce. Thank you for that contribution, Denver. Always good to have you commenting. It's all about balance here. Connie, I am tired already. So we need to register, then pay to advertise, pay government fees. Sounds like, of course, this will be clarified, I'm quite sure, in maybe some more of their PR stuff that they will be doing. I don't know. We just have to wait and see, Connie Bonnie. Mia, yes, good, but it will affect the small mom and pop businesses and add costs, blah, 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 all because our government want a check off box before they sit down and do proper evaluation for all affected. Again, thank you. Tartarian says, if they are not looking at the net birth rate, what is the basis for granting status? Just for working in Cayman, status seems like slave workers' compensation. Damien Charles says, sorry, employers who are anti-Caymanian, stigmatization, exploitation all and had over 30 plus years to hire and promote Caymanians and stop abusing immigration system. There you go, Damien. Renewal work permits. Is this applied to or only new permits? It is unclear whether or not, the question is whether or not this would be for renewals or apply for only new work permits. It's unclear how that's going to be because, again, with the lack thereof for no regulations, if a work permit is more than likely in play, the transitional clause would actually cover any work permit that is in play right now before this new law, should the law be passed as being presented. The transitional clause should actually protect you from that. However, we will need further explanation. This is why it's complicated to really have these discussions. If you are caught into this position, needing work permits right now, what happens when your next work permit is up for renewal? Would you be subjected to all of this? We don't know. We need more clarity on it. Would this mean every brand new work permit only after and when this law goes in effect, or upon renewal of the next work permit once this law goes in effect? It is going to be very interesting how that plays out. Will temporary work permits be removed? I didn't get that temporary work permits would be removed, and however, this is not speaking on behalf of the government or the honorable minister. They are looking at making ways more efficient for the speedy processing of one-year applications. There will always be a need for temporary work permits, but people only went to temporary work permits because of the long length of time it was taking to process 1 or 2 year requests. Also, what was observed is that sometimes people use the temporary, which is fair, to find out whether or not the worker is the right fit for the role. And maybe that should still be considered, because you don't want to be paying all of these fees for a 1 year work permit when possibly you can get somebody on a transitional, maybe a 3 month or a 2 month, whatever. I don't know. But I think a lot of the persons were actually using the temporary first and foremost, top of the line. The only reason why they went for the temporary is when the wait times for 1 year grants became just too long. And then it was quicker for you to do a temporary work permit fee and do the express. You get the answer quicker. Now they're trying to streamline the process, making sure applications are completed, making sure that all the necessary due diligence is done. They're not anticipating on taking any incomplete applications whatsoever, is what I've been hearing, in order to expedite the process. Many times as well, applications have been received incomplete, improper completion of application forms, probably needing more supporting contracts or justification in a cover letter that would slow down the process. And but bottom line is, the boards were just taking too long to deal with 1 year grants, and that is why the temporary system became easy way. I see where they have amended things now, or some of the suggestions, if not already implemented. Medicals, HIV, VDRL testing now from the get-go, which is long overdue. And so there are some good things about this, but the transitional clause, when this law goes into effect, what will impact work permits, whether or not a work permit that's in play right now will be impacted by all of this when you come to renew. Let's leave it for the experts to actually say, and hopefully we'll get some light on that tomorrow or in the coming days. Tartarian, when speaking of skilled workers, no disrespect to the hotel industry, but I see no great skills needed in that industry. What is upcoming is mostly hotel. I'm quite sure people will not see that wrong, Tartarian. Tartarian also says, there is a need to cap the hotel industry. We don't need more hotels. Well, we heard that, of course, there's one GT that's coming on. There's the one across from HSBC, Marin's Plaza. There's another one, I think Mandarin is coming. There's another one somewhere, I think in Peace Bay. And I'm just quoting what the minister is saying. So, and plus there are other stuff that's going on as well that we're seeing. Oh my God, it's 6:58. That we're seeing where, there are going to be additional needs for persons to be able to fill these roles. Damian Charles, I get many resumes from expats here on the island and overseas, and I must say, they all job hop. I've seen some every 6 months. If a Caymanian showed that on a resume, it's held against them or not even considered. Some of these employers will find the smallest issues as an excuse. If you go to an interview, it's made harder for a Caymanian. Someone from overseas is already being picked or to be renewed. That's why the gatekeepers, the enforcers, these boards and councils need to really be on their game, to be honest with you. And sometimes they really need to call the Caymanians that are declared on the application forms that weren't successful, call them to find out if they really got an interview. I have real cases where Caymanians have said that they were not interviewed, but yet something else was actually communicated to immigration. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to do a hard stop there. We will pick this up tomorrow, but this is the eve of this bill going to Parliament tomorrow. It's 7:00. Love you lots. Please join me tomorrow as we finish this up, and we got to hold them accountable. We got to hold them accountable. It was a pleasure. Time caught up on me. It was a pleasure bringing you another episode of Sabrina Speaks. Until tomorrow, God bless. Take care.
That's a wrap for today's edition of Sabrina Speaks. Thank you for tuning in and for being part of the conversation. Remember, the dialogue doesn't stop here. Stay engaged, stay informed, and most importantly, stay empowered. We'll be back tomorrow at 5 p.m., same time, same place, right here on CMR TV and radio, where your voice matters and your truth is heard. Until then, Cayman, take care of yourself and each other.
That's it for today's edition of Sabrina Speaks, where your voice matters, your story counts, and your truth is always welcome. Join us weekdays from 5 until 6:30 p.m. right here on CMR TV as we dive into the topics that matter most to you. Catch the show live or on demand at cmrtv.com. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram so you never miss a moment. Until next time, stay informed, stay engaged, and always speak your truth.